My name is, as you know, is Jodi Soyars, and I'm here representing Brandon. And what we want to know is what everybody else wants to know is why Benji died. It has not been resolved by what the medical examiner tells you. We absolutely disagree with the state on the cause of death, but what we can tell you is that it absolutely was not starvation, dehydration, or failure to seek medical care. As the state pointed out, this is Benjamin. The evidence is going to show that he died on August 17, 2021. This is the photo of Benjamin 3 hours before he passed. Benjamin is a 4-year-old boy. He was born September 28th of and I apologize, it's wrong on there, it's September 28th, 2016. He was born with Mongolian spots on his back, which looked like bruises, and they covered a substantial part of his back, and he had those since birth. Now, there are going to be pictures that you see in the trial, or we anticipate you seeing, and I want you to understand that it's not bruising all down his back, because that would be misleading, and you would not want to be misled in that way. But people who don't know that he was born with those would misunderstand. He spent the first 2.5 years of his life with his biological mother, Erica Flores, and during that time he was born premature. He was told at the hospital that by his mother was told that he would always have issues with failure to thrive and other issues. And the medical records will substantiate that they note on there, and they give her these kind of forewarnings. January 2019, and he never got over the 5th percentile in weight at any point during his mother's care. January 2019, Benjamin is going to come live with Brandon, and you are going to see that the medical records will show that within a year of living with Brandon, he has gotten close to the 25th percentile in weight. Miranda joins the picture around February of 2020. Now, they have a child, and we're going to get into the family dynamics that the evidence is going to show, but they have Mariah January 2021, and that's how you know, like when you backtrack, it's a year before they get together. All right, Benjamin's family. He is a family in a house full of 4 children. He has a big brother named Brandon Jr. that I believe was approximately 9 years old at that time. He also, Benjamin was 4 years old. He had a stepbrother, Leonidas, who was 3. And then he has a half-sister, Mariah, who's 8 months old. So there's 4 kids in the family, and they kind of have a traditional family dynamic. Mariah stays home with the kids, and Brandon goes and works. And so he's gone Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. But it's Miranda who is doing the heavy lifting at the house. She is taking full care of all these kids. Brandon Jr. starts school August 9th, which is approximately 2 weeks before Benjamin passes. During this time, Miranda is waking up all of the kids every morning and putting them in the car to take Brandon Jr. to school. What you'll hear or see in the evidence, because the officers are going to be observing the unannounced, they're going to make a visit on July 20th, 2021, and when they do appear, the apartment is clean, it is stocked with food, it's decorated in an educational way. It has letters and stuff on the walls, posters of a map. Someone who cares, right? The state is going to be required to prove beyond a reasonable doubt not that Benjamin starved to death or was dehydrated or was deprived of proper medical care. We're here to tell you that none of that happened. Now, how do I know that none of that happened? Because the evidence points in that direction. This is not a sensational argument about one misstatement by a parent. It is the overall evidence that will show you. Medical visits alone, from July 20th, the evidence will show, to August 17th, 10 10+ medical professionals saw Benjamin. This is not a child that is being hidden. It also doesn't even include all the nurses, but they're mandatory reporters, and if they thought that something was wrong, they definitely would have been in a position to be the people to sound the alarm. Those 10+ medical professionals are going to be made up of 4 EMS people on July 20th, 21, and 4 police officers. You're going to see here evidence that 3 to 5 doctors see him the very next day between the Pearl ER and we call CHOSA, which is the Children's Hospital of San Antonio, and there's in the Center of Miracles, which Center for Miracles really evaluates cases for child abuse. And this case was looked at extensively on July 21st, 2021 by professionals who are trained, including Dr. Lucifer. On July 26th, he's taken to Little Buddies, and on August 10th, he's taken to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he's weighed in each of these instances. Doctors are made aware that there has been an accusation of malnourishment and that Benji has struggled to gain weight. The July 20th, what the state referenced and the evidence is going to show is that there was a report made to, I don't know if it's law enforcement or CPS, by Brandon's relatives. And they claim that Benji, they've seen photos of Benji and he looks malnourished, like he might have lost weight, he's regressed back into diapers. They're going to claim that they saw 2 black eyes. But they're also going to tell you they have no personal knowledge of anything that's going on, but they're going to blame Miranda. They think Miranda has done something to the kid. So police come out, and there's 4 police officers plus 4 EMS, and they're all in the apartment observing the family. And what they do is they interview the parents and they interview the kids, and everybody's cooperative, and nobody is claiming that they're hungry or haven't been fed. You're going to see, like I mentioned earlier, that there's food. Now, also at that time are these locks on the doors of the refrigerator, as the state pointed out, and of cabinets. Interestingly, they're not locked. And the evidence is going to show that while they are there, every single time the officers come, they're not locked. They are put there as people may when you have little babies to keep them out, but Benjamin was able to get in and out of those mechanisms and into the refrigerator, and you're going to see, we anticipate you seeing video surveillance each time he was able to do it, and that there wasn't food being withheld. The next visit was the Pearl ER, and he weighed 14.6 kilograms. Now, the evidence will show that this 1 liter bottle weighs 1 kilogram. And that 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. This is 2.2 pounds. The evidence will also show that a bottle this size is half a liter, and so it's going to weigh 1.1 pound, right? Now, that same day they go to CHOSA, there's a full medical workup, as I mentioned. We have CT scans, MRIs, labs, all of that. When he is released from CHOSA, he is released with the only thing that is asked is that he do a follow-up with a pediatrician and go see a behavioral specialist, because they suspect autism and behavioral issues that are affecting the child. Child Protective Services sees him somewhere around July 21st, right? You know, everyone's involved right up front. Parents are interviewed, children are interviewed, there's no outcries of any inability to get food or any abuse. Because if there were, Child Protective Services, as you will find out, has the ability to remove children. They don't even need to have a hearing. If they think that it is that a child is in danger, they can without a court order. Little Buddies, a week later, he's seen it at Little Buddies. Again, this pediatrician who is gonna, you'll see the records from him, he doesn't think that there's any concern and he is aware as well of the claims of malnourishment. The ENT of San Antonio will put in his records, well nourished and in no acute distress. This is 7 days before Benji passes. Miranda Cossidis is the stepmom in this case, and we believe she came into the picture around February 2020, and she was there through August 17th of 2021. So for a year and a half, you're going to see the medical records are going to show that this child did not have any issues under Miranda's care. Now, when there's going to be the babies born in January 2021, they move in March of 2021. All right, this is now March to August, 5 months before Benji passes. These are life stressors that are going to affect the whole family dynamic. And these additional stressors may have resulted in Miranda having postpartum depression. We'll never know because she wasn't, we didn't look at it that way. CPS didn't evaluate her for that. But it's possible that she had postpartum depression. She's exhausted, she's not getting sleep. The evidence is going to show that she's staying up all night to care for Benji, who is repeatedly crying at night. Now, on August 17th, the night before, you're going to hear, we believe the evidence is going to show that there is a disagreement between Brandon and Mariah. And Brandon calls Mariah out on having raised her voice at Benji. The evidence is not going to show that Brandon had any awareness that Miranda had done anything to this child other than raise her voice. And that's what he's saying. Why are you raising your voice at him? You don't raise your voice to Leonidas. And he tells her, look, if he didn't want the water, you can hear in the recording, if he didn't want the water, just close the door, come in here, close our door, lay down, and go to sleep. He's telling her, go to sleep. She doesn't go to sleep. Next morning, she wakes up at some point, if she does go to sleep, I'm not sure, but she has to have Brandon Jr. at school. So she wakes all the kids up, puts them in the car, takes Brandon Jr., and you're going to see video recordings of Benji in that car. And he is melting down, and he is crying for bread. And if you take that video in isolation, it might seem pretty horrific. I understand that. But what you're not seeing is what all is happening before it and all the food that this child and water is being provided. We're not going to deny that this child always has suffered or been at risk for a failure to thrive. And when you have life stressors and you have other potential medical issues that have not been ruled out, you are creating potentially this perfect storm where this child passed away, but not because anything that Brandon did or failed to do. He had no awareness that this child was being starved. And as you can see by the as that picture showed, this is what he was seeing. Now, there's going to be multiple people that see the child, or excuse me, that are going to be called to testify with their theories of the case. And Dr. Molina, she does the autopsy on August 18th, and she cannot determine a cause of death. She is going to wait until February of 2022 to issue her finding. And she's only going to issue her finding after she speaks to Detective Size. And Detective Size is going to come in there and have cherry-picked the videos that he shows her that starts this whole thing in motion to believe that potentially this child is starved. Now, we anticipate having other experts come and testify. to help you understand why we know beyond a reasonable doubt that this kid was not starved and was not dehydrated. And it's going to be in the scientific evidence as well as what you, as people who have seen children and yourself, will observe. And your common sense. The BMI was within normal ranges. And that's why each of those professionals that were looking at him did not sound an alarm of, hey, let's hook him up to an IV right now. Let's make sure he can have nutrients, that no one's intentionally depriving this child of nutrients. They did not ask for a nutritionalist to come talk to the kid or be advised by the kid. They did not recommend that he keep a journal or that he be weighed every day. And they did not sound the alarm to a parent that, oh my goodness, maybe I should be concerned because the doctors are telling me this child is at a critical stage. No one says that to him. The weight loss from the time that he is at the last doctor on August 10th to his autopsy weight is 2 pounds. Now, there's gonna see pictures on August 17th of all this fluid that comes out of this child. There is going to be standing urine in his bed. It's a puddle and it's soaked up by these shirts or clothing that's there. There's going to be a diaper that is on this child, and it is full to the max, as if someone dumped him in water in a pool and it expanded. You know what that's what it looked like. There is going to be a bowel movement that is large and hard. Now, the thing about the evidence is going to show you is that you can't have urine without having consumed hydration. You can't have bowel movements without having consumed food. This is not stuff I'm making it up. This is what the evidence is going to show you. The child is able to walk, which if you're dying of starvation, you cannot walk, you don't have the energy. You cannot physically, with your muscles, they're gone. He's not going to have any ligature marks on him that tends to go along with kids that are kept from food. He's not going to have, and then they're going to, the evidence is going to show you can't starve to death in a day or even hours. And ultimately, you're going to see a photo or photos of what it looks like when a child's body has died of starvation versus what Benjamin looked like. Because without that, we as lay people have no clue. A small child, the evidence will show, does not mean that they are about to die or you should have known they were going to die or that you have done anything wrong to that child. Miranda Cossetis. You know, I can't say a whole lot about her other than I absolutely know that this child did not die of starvation. What I don't know if she did something though to Benji that day. And I don't know if it's because she had postpartum depression and she snapped. You're going to hear evidence of her rising frustration with this child, a special needs child. She's sleep deprived and she has 4 other kids in the house. It's possible that she suffocated the child or did something to prevent the child from breathing, and that the medical examiner never considered that and cannot rule it out. Miranda is the last person to see Benjamin alive, and she is the only person that he is with from 6 or so in the morning until he passes. Did he have a medical condition? I don't know. And let me be very clear, I cannot say whether or not she did something to that child, but neither can the medical examiner. And I cannot rule out medical conditions, and you're going to hear that from the experts. You're going to hear Dr. Lucifer, and while the state says that he's a state's expert, I believe you're going to hear, truthfully from him, things that are going to undercut their case. Dr. Eric Christensen, he's a forensic pathologist, and he will be called to explain why he thinks that Dr. Molina may have missed some things. Dr. Gebhard, he's a pediatrician, and he generally testifies for the state. The only time that I believe he's ever testified for the defense is going to be on behalf of Brandon Cervera. Catherine McKinney, she's a licensed dietitian, licensed nutritionalist, registered dietitian, and then she's certified in diabetes care and education specialist. Dr. Richard Tice is a forensic psychologist, and you may also hear from him. All right, so at the end of this, what I'm going to also say that even if the evidence is going to show that Miranda did something, that is not the end of the story. Whether she did something or not does not mean that Brandon knew anything of what she was doing. We have absolute evidence that the child had hydration and food and nourishment and food with the bowel movement, and that he had seen many, many doctors over the course of his last month. Reasonable discipline, you will hear potentially.
Ms. Sawyers, you're at 20 minutes.
Thank you. You will hear potentially that he had the child do wall squats. That is not corporal punishment. And we believe that at this time, you will also see evidence that he was there for the child, and that Benjamin, as captured on the videos, on July 20th, 2021, was very attached to his dad, and his dad was very caring back to him. Thank you, and I ask that you return a verdict of not guilty, because I believe that is a true and correct verdict in this case.
Thank you, counsel.